Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova, and Gemar Chatima Tova. This Shabbat, the one that happened in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, is known as Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat of the return, the Shabbat of repentance. It occupies a very important place in our people's religious calendar. And in fact, it may surprise you to note that in ancient times, this was one of the 3 times during the year that the rabbi actually gave an extended sermon. Before you get excited, we don't use that particular modality anymore. But as much as this should be a special Shabbat, a time of return, a time of repentance, a Shabbat of peace, it's hard for us all not to focus down on Florida and the southeastern part of our country. As I make this video, they are bracing for experiencing a hurricane. I've spoken to colleagues who are rabbis down there, and they're not only concerned about whether or not they'll have power for Shabbat, but whether or not power will be restored by the time that Yom Kippur comes. And we will, as a community, pledge to be there for them, as a Jewish community, as an American community. But as we know, our real test will be not whether or not we're able to be there for them in the immediacy after this natural disaster, but weeks from now, when the rebuilding continues, when the rebuilding lags, and many of us have lost focus or even forgotten that there was a hurricane at all. But you know, as much as we absolutely detest these natural disasters and fear them, sometimes we know that they are a reality of life. And it's the way the Jewish community responds. It's the way the American community responds that I think is the way we find meaning amidst tragedy. I know from friends in the Jewish community that people have already started to mobilize, started to create little pocket communities where if they cannot meet in their synagogue, they've started to drop off pockets of machzors, of high holiday prayer books in people's houses, so that people might be able to go to different small locations to still experience their tefillah on Yom Kippur. It's one of our great qualities as a Jewish community that we rally amidst very unknown and tossing seas. It's the very thing that I think has sustained us for so many years, and I also think it's the way that we set an example for the rest of the world. I can only hope and pray that this Shabbat brings a measure of peace, a measure of quiet for our friends, both Jewish and American, and everyone in the Southeast, and that in the coming days and weeks together we will rebuild whatever is lost. Shabbat Shalom.